Okay, we're now at the point where I want to pause and I want to get a systematic overview of the various verb stems. So we know that there are two basic tenses in Hebrew. There's the perfect and the imperfect tense. Well, there are a number of stems that Hebrew can do with its verbs as well that tweak the meaning in various ways. If you're following this series, we're about to finish Jonah chapter 2 in Hebrew, and we've encountered almost, not quite, but almost all of the different stems that are the primary stems. So we want to systematize those in this video. We're just going to look at the third masculine singular form because that is the simplest form in each case. It's the basic form. And so we're going to go through those. That's where they get the names for the stems even, the third masculine singular forms of that particular stem. But more on that in a second. So the basic stem, the one we've emphasized the most so far, the one you learned first, was traditionally called the Call stem. Call means light. The German grammarians have more recently sometimes called it the G stem or the Grundstamm, the ground stem. It's the base stem. It's the nothing done to it, no frills added, the basic blah, third masculine singular. So for example, for the perfect, katal, with a kamatz patak, 1-2 punch. And so this means he killed. It is a call perfect, third masculine singular from katal, he killed. Why did they choose katal to kill? I'm not sure why they picked that particular one. Maybe it's memorable. But one of the reasons they picked it is because it is a strong verb. Strong verb. All three consonants are strong. Nothing funny, no funny business with any of these consonants. They do what they're supposed to do. So that's one of the reasons. Interestingly enough, traditionally, the paradigm verb used to be pa'al, which means to do or to make. And here you see pa'al. The thing about pa'al is its second consonant is a guttural, ayin, and so it does not always behave normally. And so it's very curious to me that they picked that as the paradigm verb in the past. But the traditional names for the stem basically come from taking pa'al and putting it in that stem. So we have encountered the nifal stem before, and you'll notice that the nifal stem, you've got a ph here, you've got an ayin, that's a backwards apostrophe is the ayin transliteration, and then the l for the lamed. So you can see that if you take the verb pa'al and you put it in the nifal stem, it looks like nifal. Here it is with taking katal, niktal. Notice the verbs. It's got an n or a nun at the front. It's got a hirk, the I, and it's got a patak, a short a. So niktal is the way katal looks in the third masculine singular perfect tense nifal stem. And if you remember, the nifal stem makes it passive. So if katal means he killed, niktal means he was killed, passive. Modern grammarians sometimes call it the N stem because it adds in the perfect a nun on the front. It adds an N on the front. I find that much simpler and makes more sense than to call it the nifal stem. But you're going to see it called the nifal stem in the literature, so I want you to know that. Let's start our Amazing Grace mnemonic here. Katal, niktal. Okay, Nick is tall. So nifal. Now, I do want to give honorable mention to the call passive participle, the GP or G passive, that only really appears in the participle. It's not a very common form at all, but we have seen it. And so its pattern is katul. So a kamatz sharuk pattern would be being killed, would be the way you might translate it. And even though it's not in the song, I did want to mention that, so you've got two different ways to make the base stem passive. You can put it in the nifal stem, or in the participle, you can use the call passive participle. You'll notice that Hebrew is not necessarily tidy with its categories. That can be annoying. It's much more impressionistic and intuitive, say, than Greek. But so we've got two stems so far, two main ones. We've got the base stem, the call stem, and we've got the nifal stem, which makes it passive. All right. Now, in this chart, I want to highlight three variations on a stem. Now you can see why pa'al is a poor choice for a paradigm verb, because this pal stem, which we just recently saw in a couple videos, sometimes called more recently the D stem for doubling, and the key feature of the PL stem is it has a doubled second letter. You can see the tate is doubled here. But gutturals don't do doubling. So why in the world did they pick pa'al as the paradigm verb? What were they thinking? We know so much more. I want you to have a moment of self-righteous, arrogance right now. I know more than the people who came up with the paradigm verb. What were they thinking in using pa'al? Anyway, no, don't do arrogance. It's bad. Pride goes before a fall. Anyway, the PL stem, which is what happens when you put pa'al into the PL stem, better called the D stem for doubling. So here's the pattern. Katail. It has a hiric, it has a doubled second letter, if it'll allow, and it's sere. And you can see it here. Here's the hiric, I, and here's the sere, long E, is the way it's transliterated. So what is this doubling stem? What does it mean? Well, it's a little difficult. And in fact, we've improved, I think, our understanding of this stem over time. They used to think of it as an intensive stem, and there might still be some instances where it's intensive, but the PL stem, basically you put the verb, you put something into the state of the verb. So if shavar, I believe it is, means to break, if you put it into the D stem, shiver, it means to shatter. So you're putting something into a broken state. We call that resultative. You put it in the result of you create the result of the verb. So it's a little hard, and ultimately, as we've said, you just want to look it up. But the PL stem, you put something into the state of what the verb is, and its pattern is hiric, doubled second letter, sere. So katal, niktal, kitail, and here's the passive of that. The pual. We haven't seen this one. This is one we haven't seen in Jonah so far. Sometimes called the DP stem for D passive, doubling passive. The vowels are a UA pattern, so we have a kibbutz and a patak, and it's still doubled. So this is the passive. If katail means to put into a killed state, to murder, I suppose, then the passive, the D passive, is to be put into a killed state, something like that. So this is the passive of the D stem. Its name is the pual. Now I'm going to go ahead and put the HTD here, or hithpael, because you can see the common. Again, the more recent nomenclature makes a whole lot more sense. It's a lot more helpful. If this is the D passive, the HTD, this is still doubled, still has the sere. It's got a hit on the front. We have seen the hithpael. And again, notice how the hithpael, the vowels mirror it. Hit, pa, ale. But again, doubled letter that you can't see. Here are three stems that pual doesn't work right for. What were they thinking? So we've got, to sing the song, katal, niktal, kitail, kutal, hit, katail. Okay, so these all three are doubling stems, okay? This one is resultative, puts it into the state of the verb. This is the passive, to be put into the state of the verb. And then the hithpael is reflexive, to do it to yourself or some other variation. Ultimately, you'll need to look it up. The last two stems I want to highlight in this video, and again, these are just the perfect forms, is the hifil. We've seen this one. This is the causative stem. You cause to kill. We've already told you in previous videos that the key here is the hiric yod. That's the thing to look for. In the perfect, it also has an H on the front, and so calling it an H stem, I think, makes perfect sense. It's the causative stem. But you can notice that the traditional name, the hifil, has the same verbs, right? It's got a hiric, it's got a hiric. It's got a, this caret I stands for the hiric yod. And so hifil is what happens if you put pa'al into that stem. Hiktil is how it looks if you use katal as the paradigm verb. So we've got katal, niktal, kital, kutal, hit katal, hiktil, hoktal. And with this one, we finish the basic stems of the perfect form. You have to get the second half of the song in the next video. But you'll notice that this is the HP or H passive. So to be caused to kill, it's the passive of the H stem. And the pattern is a short O, which is a kamatz katuf, like there. That's not a kamatz gadol, a long A. That's kamatz katuf, a short O. So this is a silent schwa. This syllable's closed with a short vowel preceding it. And then you'll notice the A there at the end. So we're now ready to systematize this way too long video. Katal, niktal, kital, kutal, hit katal, hiktil, hoktal. And we're going to end there. You'll have to hear the rest of the song in the next video.